Okay, that's manageable. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roach Crossing Weekly General Live Stream, April 21st, 2022. Almost said 2021. This is a gorgeous day. The sun is beaming directly into the office. As you can see, I have the window open because it is very, very, very hot in here right now. And it's a wonderful day, and I see a carpet beetle, an adult carpet beetle on the window, and this is a phenomenon that usually happens in the spring in places. I'm gonna catch it actually because I want it. So yeah, this is a phenomenon. Actually, this is again completely unscripted, impromptu. Oh, get the cup. This is a phenomenon I've noticed all over the place. Usually, the first couple warm days of spring, inside and outside of houses. What was that? Oh, is that another one trapped in between the panels? Oh, that sucks. Can I get that open? Come on. Oh, is it the one that doesn't open? Oh, that's the one with the peg that's over here that I have to move. Damn it. Well, I got one. Maybe more will show up. But anyways, this is a pretty common phenomenon in these parts, that on the first warm day of spring, you'll get carpet beetles popping up by your windows, both leaving your house and also entering your house. Pretty reliable with Dermestes lardarius in my parents' house on a day like this. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, there'd be 3 of them on each of the windows outside the house, not coming from inside the house, but from outside the house. Yeah, sorry, this blitz of excitement over this teeny tiny beetle, and you can see the little black speck there is the carpet beetle right there. And actually interesting because I have, it's very pretty. I wish I had a good means of showing it off, but I have one colony of carpet beetles from my ex's brother's disgusting car. They're actually found inside the car. And another colony that I acquired while we were in Alabama from somewhere that had been culturing a different species, and actually the species I'd had for years from the car wasn't identified. And over that weekend, it was actually identified for me. I think it was variable or something like that by a beetle taxonomist. So, but it ended up being a different species from the one that was in culture that I also received a colony of. So I have 2 species of these carpet beetles. This looks like it could be a third, probably feeding on the dead bugs that fall into the windowsill, and then on a warm day they decide to try and the adults try to disperse. So anyways, now that excitement's sort of out of the way, I'm going to go through the chat and say hello to everyone. Hi, Tennyson, Vocabulous, Smack, good to see a bunch of regulars. And go through and read these. Finals week is hitting. College students, in April, May. Lots of progress with some projects I've been working on, so that's exciting. From Tennyson, summer is coming fast. I am thinking this is going to be one of those years, and this has been a trend the last 5+ years, where it's winter. We get about 2 weeks of spring, and all of a sudden it's summer. So I feel like that's certainly going to be the case this weekend. It's supposed to get up into the 80s, so it's wonderful. Finally, good weather. Hello, Alan. And Rabbit and Carrot says, are there any rhino roaches available? There are not any rhinos available. I may be picking some up from a friend in a couple of weeks. I have to see what he has available, among other things. So not at the moment, but possibly in the near future. Hello, Joshua. Good to see you. We might have gotten excited over the carpet beetle stuff. And of course, the one disadvantage of having the window open is we get the noises of the riffraff outside. Hello, Madison, as well. Good to see you. Yeah. So let's see what's up. I have a sparkling beverage. I have some sourdough bread. Nothing to put on it though. And this just came in the mail. Oh, is it backwards? Probably backwards. This is just a little thing you can fill out through the National Wildlife Federation to get your property as certified wildlife habitat because of the owner's conscientious planning, landscaping, and sustainable gardening. Wildlife will find quality habitat here: food, water, cover, and places to raise their young. So to sort of curve the enthusiasm of my not very enthusiastic neighbor, and although the city's already fine with everything that I do with my property, I'm going to be putting up some signage in the front yard with all the accolades of Monarch Way Station, wildlife habitat, all the rain garden, all this other stuff, a bunch of certifications, as are a few other folks on the block who have similar landscapings. So that just came in today. I'm trying to think anything else. And yes, there is more. It feels like it's been forever since the last live stream. Maybe that's because the last week has been very productive. But over the weekend, which was Easter weekend, on Saturday I was outside with Brandon and Will. We were just hanging out, just having a nice friend meetup on Saturday. And we tried to make a fire, but it was just so cold and windy. It was awful. So we're sitting around the fire, like I'm trying to warm up. I'm pretty much in the fire pit, and Victor's just off sniffing around somewhere. And he's been able to have free roam of the whole backyard the last couple of 10 days since I got all the fencing, the majority of the fencing up. And so he's just sniffing around. And all of a sudden, he gets really fixated on this one spot in one of my beds, and I haven't fenced it off yet, but it's one of the beds I'm going to fence off. And he's just shoving his nose into the ground like there's something there that is just really perplexing him. And he starts like flipping whatever's there up, and there's all this fur coming out. And the next thing I know, there's baby bunnies running everywhere. He had found a rabbit nest that was just in the middle of the backyard that he apparently had completely missed for many days before that. And since we were all outside, he was more in the vicinity of that area more frequently. And so there was a bunch of baby bunnies running everywhere. And I had to go catch all the bunnies. I had to fence off the nest and take the bunnies in the house for the night until the weather warmed up before I could go and put them back into the nest, because we were going to my parents' house for Easter Sunday. So I had to keep him away from these baby bunnies, because even though he's good with rabbits, but tiny, squeaky, fast, panicky things like guinea pigs and baby bunnies that still trigger his prey drive. So he really wanted to get at them, and he was just sniffing and pushing one along, and before it turned into anything else, I scooped it up. So anyway, I had to put them all back in the nest, and they were at the point where people usually find baby bunnies, where they're pretty much fledged. So I don't even know if mom ever came back for them, but I wanted to give them, another day or so with the opportunity. So they're all over the yard now. I have no idea where they've gone off to now. So yeah, Easter bunnies on Easter. I also had a big litter of guinea pigs born on Easter Saturday too. They're very adorable. A lot of them have little rosettes and colics and stuff. Very cute. So yeah, wildlife habitat. There's bunnies nesting in the middle of my backyard, all the plants and whatnot, and toads too in the pond. I have a small pond. It's just a liner over a ditch basically with a bunch of plants on the edges. And the toads were out there calling when it was warm. And I bet they'll be calling tonight too, because of how warm it is. So all the second you get a 60+ degree night during the spring, all the toads pile into all the ponds, leave a bunch of spawn. But I don't think they actually spawned the first time. I think it got a little bit too cold halfway through the night. But I'm sure if it stays warm tonight, they'll be out there spawning. So talking bugs. Oh man, you can't really see it. I was going to ask people if anybody noticed anything different. It's a very subtle change, but I have finally had an opportunity to bump this lower rack down and make some more space above it. And as you can see, it's already almost completely filled in with roach cultures. So there's a couple things that need to be moved around. A lot of these things I just finished within the last 48 hours. It's been a real blitz. I have a new assistant. I don't know if he wants to be named yet, but he is a friend of Brandon's who was looking for some odd jobs or work type stuff. And so he's been coming over the last 2 days and really been helping out. He has no bug experience and is quite squeamish around a lot of bugs, but he has an open mind, and a lot of the work that I need done doesn't necessarily involve bugs. Things like cleaning containers or just bringing me containers to work on in rapid succession. So he's been a great help with that and getting back on track. So that's wonderful. Let me go back in the chat and see anybody that I have missed. Hello, Vermis and Rabbit and Carrot already said hello, and also I just realized the bunnies involved in the story. Anybody else new? Hello, Carolyn Nichols as well. What's a good intermediate millipede to keep? Says Vocabulous. So I really, my brain just goes to really beginner millipedes, Chicobolus and Centrobolus. Trying to think if there's anything that's a little bit, I would say your urids are kind of an intermediate species because you have to be able to consistently supply them with that very good quality white rotted wood. And if they're too stuffy, they will die. But if you have conditions just right and they can get around into different microclimates in the enclosure, if it gets too dry or too moist in the air, they're very hardy. So Ururus and Auturus, I think, are the two genera in the U.S. I'm working on getting them. I collected a bunch of those, a bunch of different localities, and probably the different genera and species on the Alabama trip. And then I received more after the Alabama trip. And so it's just a matter of time until I have some available. But I'm not sure if anybody actually has captive breds available. Bugs in Cyberspace used to have some a while ago. Did you get your order shipped? Yes. So earlier this week, I got all the orders that were slated for this week shipped. 26 is going to be this upcoming shipping week is going to be a real bear. On top of tomorrow, I'm hoping to do husbandry on all the roaches and all the isopods in the same day, which is going to be quite the slog. And my assistant does have to leave early, so I may end up having to do some things on my own. But fortunately, it's down to an art and a science. Carolyn Nichols. Let me see if you. I don't know if your order went out. Let me check this. Carolyn Nichols. It's not on that sheet, so maybe it did. Let me search my email really quick. Should pop up in USPS stuff, unless let's see. No. What can you email me if it went to Roach Crossing or to K Candili? Can you email me? Just shoot me an email of the conversation with the order in it, because it's not the full name isn't pulling up on the USPS stuff that I usually, if I type it into the Gmail, it'll show up with all the names of stuff of people that I've shipped to this week with the most recent order. That's my box order. That's older labels. No, those all came through singly. Anyways, yeah, shoot me a quick. What is your? Let me just look up Nichols actually. Oh, Tim Nichols. Let's see. PayPal. I don't remember sending that recently, and it looks like pull up some things here. Check that. So it came through Susan, so let me see if it was sent to, if the thing was, the address was set to Susan. No, I don't think I sent it then. That's my bad. Again, things have been difficult with it just being down to me, but I'm going to slate that onto this week with some extras if you are okay to receive this week, if that's good. Let me cross this out. I think it's because usually I will send a response that I received things, but it doesn't look like I had received, or it doesn't look like I sent a reception response. Let me just put that in there. Thank you for bringing this up, because since it didn't pop up on my order roster, that means that Susan, that means that for whatever reason I didn't write it down. Nichols. Put the email response on there too from Tim, like so. Sorry for my intense focus on making sure I grab everything while I have it pulled up. Let's see. There's the Addy. Okay, let's just through priority too. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Let's see, there we go. They will go out this upcoming Tuesday with some extras. Live customer service in action. That was actually the other unintended purpose for the live stream, is in case something slipped under the radar because I was busy or something accidentally got pushed onto another order page, that people could bring it up, had an opportunity to contact me directly, because the last day that I was able to go through and clear the inbox was the 18th. So tomorrow night's going to be a slog clearing the rest of the inbox, since usually passively I can get through about 50 emails a day, but when the inbox is full, it's usually about 150. So it's quite the slog, and I'm trying to stay up on older emails and then just sort of letting things simmer for a couple days while I work downstairs. But it is, again, it has been a bit tricky since I can't come upstairs and do emails during the morning anymore, because I usually sick will on some things while I was taking care of stuff. So anyways, sorry about that, Carolyn. As I said, they will go out this Tuesday with some extra thingies. And I need to clear this page and contact that person and move this to the after that, because we are looking at starting May shipping roster already. Where has all the time gone? So let me think as I reroute my brain to think about whatever I was talking about before. As I had the sourdough that's right next to me. Also, I mean, Tennyson, your stuff went out, unless I already told you that, or unless it went out the week before, in which case Hope you enjoyed receiving it last week. So, anyways, let me give catch up and chat a little bit. Yes, the flat millipedes were the Ururids. Ururidae is a family of flats. You reckon one could keep Consodi Schwartzii in a modified cheese ball container? Of course, you definitely could. You may actually have better success with Nocticola in that with the more limited ventilation. They seem to like that. Carolyn, I will shoot him an email right now. And tell him that we had chatted. Coming. All right, sent. And if anyone else is waiting on emails, if you have a specific email right now that you'd like me to tend to, I can do it while on the stream. But otherwise, again, I'm going to have to sit down and just bore through everything tomorrow after husbandry is done. Might attempt to use them as a feeder for some micro geckos and harvestmen. Yeah, those could work well, but right now with micro roaches or really tiny roaches, I guess they're not really micro. I need those 100 free emerald roaches you promised. I believe it was it Smack who won the Magnificus in the giveaway. I have good news. I found babies. There have been at least one or two more litters born in the last week, which means there should be more from other females on the way. And I've been trying to get them up to about third-ish instar. That's when they seem to stop wanting to crawl on the mother, and that seems to be a good time to ship them. So if you can't forge an email, you aren't trying hard enough. Oh, hi. Nice to see you too, Chris. Was I saying something before this? Micro feeder roaches. I've been using Corsonura parashii for a lot of things, for huntsmen's, and Will and I have this species of pseudoscorpion. Excuse me while I eat some food as I need sustenance. I will grab a container. Will and I have been trying to breed this species of pseudoscorpion. He believes it to be in the genus Tyrannochelifer, and he believes species Floridanus. And so I had a huge colony of them going on accident around 2015 because I had dumped, when I started a colony of Latiblatella redeye, I had dumped in some pseudoscorpions that we had collected at that place that I also received, figuring, if they do something, they do something. If they die, they die at that time. And the Latiblatella did really well. And then all of a sudden the colony crashed, and I was like, what's going on here? And as I dissected the colony, I found tons and tons of these pseudoscorpions. So this is the same species from the same place. And we had, Will, Allen, and I had some good initial success after we had collected them last March. And then over the summer, I lost my colony from improper husbandry. It wasn't quite neglected, but basically I didn't account for the air humidity, which is a big thing with some of these small things. So I had lost them. Allen's did well, and I don't know what caused them to crash, but they subsequently crashed. And then Will had a colony that was just sort of pittering along. And so he gave me the last 3 or 4 of them because it's like, all right, we'll throw them in a critter keeper with a good ventilation, humidity gradient, tons and tons of roaches, etc., tons and tons of micro roaches and other micro prey, and we'll just see how they do. And so they have actually been doing well enough that I think Will, when he checked in here, had found life stages that were not present in the initial batch that were added in. So there's some flightless fruit flies in here, just melanogaster, but there is a live-in colony of Corsinura parashai in here as well. So you can see a couple of the larger individuals like this one here. It's about a lot of the tinier things you're seeing crawling up the sides are fruit flies, but if you look into the substrate, you'll see more of the actual roaches, and they breed circles around every other. They breed circles around Compsogtes and Nocticola, but the only problem is that they are good. They're excellent climbers, and the adults can fly, but they can't infest places and anything like that. In fact, they're very rare in the wild in Florida. They're an introduced species, but they're very difficult to find. So, so yeah, that's my pitch for using Corsinura parashai, and it was actually Alan gave me last Florida trip. He gave me like the 7 or so nymphs that he had found while we were sweep netting. It was like, if you kill these, I kill you. And then I had figured out the husbandry for them, and they just went off like wildfire. Lack of springtails is the cause of demise, says Alan for his Tyrannocellifer colony burning out. Chris Snyder says, Little Canyons seem to work well for geckos, very prolific. Pain in the ass to fish out of the container, though. Depends on your density of Little Canyons. I have very dense colonies, and it's actually easier for me to overfeed them or over pick out enough of them than to under pick them out. Red runners are good, but I don't have experience with them. I have not been able to get red runner ooths to hatch in a couple of months, and I'm wondering if it's either this is the discussion on one of the other live streams, if there's some sort of pathogen going through a couple of my bladdids, or if it's just because the air humidity is so dry, which would explain some other things that have happened, which, if that is really the case, that will correct itself in the coming months as the spring and summer humidity hike comes. Big Body ATL says, can you show some cool big roaches that many people don't know about? I would have to go downstairs to grab some of those, and I may do that in a bit. I have to think about some of them. It's difficult since a lot of the bigger roaches are already quite well known and popular. CS says, I just got a male and 2 female Elliptorhina javanica yesterday. First roaches I've ever owned. I'm super excited. As a very exciting starter species, seems a lot of people start off with javanica in terms of Elliptorhina. It's funny because years ago, Chopardi used to be the species of Elliptorhina everybody would have and start off with, and nowadays it's just kind of tough to find them. Tennyson asks, would Nocticola work well as a feeder for microgeckos? I plan on attempting to breed lightning blue day geckos. Yes, but they are now. Here's where the Corsinura might actually come in handy, because the Nocticola tend to be down in the substrate unless they're at very high densities. As same with the Compsogtes. Well, of course, a parashai with a light misting, or just as their natural behavior, they tend to climb up onto things, which is where the day geckos would be more likely to encounter them easily. So I think that in that situation, if you can accommodate and use Corsinura parashai as a feeder, then you may want to pursue that option instead. I think Blatella asadani has a lot of potential as a feeder because they're day active and they tend to be up in the substrate as well too. But the thing that's standing in the way there is the fact that they're, almost identical to German roaches, and so people, would German roaches, and so people, would have that sort of stigma even if they can't infest your household. Braden, hello, Braden. I'm still trying to build up my parashai before I use them as feeders, but they seem great. I'm trying to think what the turnover is on them, because if I remember correctly, I think I had them in March. They matured soon after, and I want to say by maybe May was when I was getting a lot of babies, because by later in the summer I had so many of them that I was able to split them into full-size culture with my Bantua at the time. And only just last night did I actually split the two species up because why did I split them up? Oh, because there are so many Courcinura paraschi in the Bantua enclosure that it was becoming a problem when I was packing a Bantua for orders to not get any paraschi when I was like picking up and knocking the Bantua into the shipping cups. And not it. I know a lot of roach people would appreciate freebies, but not everybody wants a freebie tiny roach species like that per se. At least one that they don't know necessarily that they're receiving would have to pick out from their order. And let's see, Smack said, would it be too risky to keep P. magnifica with springtails? Some forum posts said they can stress them out. I only currently have Fulsomia Canada. My magnifica have a thriving colony of Sinella curvicida and Willosia buscae in with them, as well as some small silvers, but those sort of come and go in that enclosure, to the point that like the food is just entirely covered in springtails when I go to check on them, like the fish flakes and whatnot that I give them. So I don't have I don't think that it's an issue. I think more likely watching what species of springtail is becoming abundant is more important. If the Sinella are becoming more abundant, it's a sign that your humidity is creeping up, because although they're capable to forage in drier spots, they do prefer moister conditions than something like Willosia buscae, which is a drier species of springtail. So when I look in the enclosure, the Sinella are all in the substrate deeper in, or in the corners where the water hits or where I add water to, and the Willosia are up and all over the bark. So I think it's better to use them as sort of a relative metric as to how well your humidity management is going, because the conditions that are good for Sinella to just constantly be in and walking around in are not ideal for Porcellio, for Pseudoglomerus magnificus. Why can't I remember this right now? Magnifica. Yes, Magnifica. They're decently easy to culture flightless micro roaches. Nocticola species Malaysia and now species Florida are easy to culture, and they're completely flightless. Paraplecta CF minutissima, the little Kenyan roach, is not quite micro, although I guess the babies do qualify for that, and they're flightless. The adult males do climb. And Compsodius schwartzii, perhaps the easiest to culture of all those tiny flightless roaches, with the caveat being that the adult males can climb and fly, but it's like nothing when every other life stage can't. And the other thing they're giving them, I think the advantage over the other species mentioned is their other than the little Kenyans, out of the tiny species, they seem to have some of the best drought tolerance out of all those that I've talked about. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. And two other very tiny species that have been brought into this discussion fray, perhaps because I've lost colonies of them and then had to restart them, are Caryblata lutea and Caryblata minutissima, or Caryblata, what is it? It's not minutissima. Caryblata lutea and minima. Caryblata minima. So those are two other excellent options. And minima seem to take it a little bit drier. No, I'm trying to think. Minima are found have a more tropical distribution than lutea, and lutea seem to be able to take it just a little bit drier, but it's such a minute difference. You can find them both in the same habitat. In Homestead, Florida, you get them about 50-50 in net sweeps in the long grass. Hello, TJ. Good to see you. Tennyson, the cyanide millipedes. I haven't had any losses in the enclosures, and I think that's a good sign. Again, with them, with some stuff, it's not a problem of just keeping it alive. It's a problem of getting it to culture and be able to produce another generation consistently over time. So they're doing well as is. They're not dying, but it's yet to be seen if they will actually reproduce in the enclosures I have them in. So if I found babies, that would probably be pretty big out of like the Aphiloria polychroma. I don't think anybody's ever gotten baby Aphiloria before, although if any of the experienced folks, the other folks who are more wired in with the Facebooky group types, has anybody gotten confirmed baby Aphiloria or Sigmoria or Pachydermis? Oh, also, I did want to put a bounty out for something. I am desperately seeking captive bred Marulinella species tricolor. And over the last year and a half, there have been people who have gotten them and claim to have them available. I have purchased them or tried to purchase them, and their colony crashes, or gotten put on a list for purchasing them. And then several months later, I hear, oh, the colony's not doing well. Oh, the colony crashed. Oh, they all died out, etc. In the last couple of weeks, there have been pictures popping up of tricolors, but it seems everybody's getting adults all at once, which to me is very suspicious and sounds like there was an import recently, or whether it was legal or illegal. It feels like there was an import because there's pictures of people saying successful breeding and stuff like that, and it's an adult sitting with a bunch of newborns around it or a bunch of second instars. I will put out a $20 bounty claimable by one person. So first person to be able to find this $20 bounty for anybody who can find me somebody who has captive bred that they have produced Marulinella species tricolor available right now for sale. $20 bounty. And they have to be willing to back up the fact that they're saying they're captive bred with pictures of their enclosure, with pictures of not even of their enclosure, of a piece of bark with a spectrum of sizes of individuals ranging from small immatures up to adults. None of this just all adults or just all newborns. I know of someone on Discord that for sure has CBB, but only a few. They aren't selling. They've had them for a year. That is a good lead for me to follow. But again, I want somebody who's set up and who's whatever is good enough that they have them available with a price tag right now. That's the thing. So that this has been my thing. I paid people, I paid for stuff and either not received it or this whole, oh, they crashed, oh, they're not doing well, and have been wired in through a lot of other individuals who stay more in touch with the uh, big isopod industry than I do. And nobody seems to be able to offer these things. And I don't even think there's any pictures of mixed size colonies on Google. Usually, there's pictures of small groups or individuals or all the same size. Here's a picture with some monkey and some like second or third instars, but when you get a good colony of anything going, Cubaris, Porcellio magnificus, even things that that tend to crap out after they've produced a good amount of babies, you tend to get a spectrum of sizes accumulating in a well-established culture, and I just haven't seen that. Yes, Carolyn Nichols, there will be a tracking number automatically forwarded to the email associated with the order. It will come through USPS, and this usually nowadays a lot of email providers forward that to trash or spam. So on Monday or Tuesday, I would advise checking your trash or spam for an email from USPS about a tracking number. Joshua Campos says, would be awesome to see a live update on Anissolabus one of these streams. Oh boy, Anissolabus. My Anissolabus fully donked out sometime late in the summer last year, probably because I was not feeding them frequently. So, but if you're talking about the I've ever various yours doing well without light prey, but my Uberellia have been doing phenomenal, both the Annuipes and the Arcanum, and I guess if Kai really wants to go to the Keys on our Florida trip, and I have to again budget for time because there's other places I really want to go that have things that are more seasonal. But if we go back to the Keys, the Anissolabus are very easy to find on beaches under the was it flotsam or whatever piles. So and they don't seem to need the salt. Strangely though, I have a container of miscellaneous isopods and amphipods that I collected on last year's Florida trip. Um, that's just a drainage layer of dolomite rocks with a bunch of instant ocean soaked leaf litter on top of it, and those isopods and whatnot are still breeding. So, and yes, Carolyn, it will be. It may be after shipping. It will take anywhere from 2 to 6 days through priority mail nowadays. Very inconsistent, but 2 to 6 days afterwards. Michael Hare says, thought that the duckies were pricey, but dang, those things are crazy. Just look them up. Yeah, and the ducky pricing is going to just continue drifting downwards to a point. Um, Although there's some evidence people are mixing up the blonde duckies and the wild type locality, whatever duckies. Everything's really poorly labeled, um, as evidenced by some intermediate individuals that have popped up for sale. So, the as the quality and consistency goes down, the price will also go down, and the price for the original things that are of quality, traceable, and consistent will just go through the roof. Big body ATL. Are you still thinking? I am always thinking. I know Biggs does, but he's in Canada, and I don't think he's selling. See, that's the thing is, this is something that Kai and I we haven't butted heads on it, but it's something that I've always sort of known, and I had to look more directly at in the last couple of months because of some of the ways that Kai views things and thinks about things. So some people, success with cultivating something to some people could be just you get some stock, you produce some offspring, and that's success. And to myself, I do not feel a project is successful until I am able to get a subsequent generation. So the progeny have to also reproduce in captivity. And even then, I don't consider it a success until you are getting consistent prolific results from things. So if I were to get a roach species and I were to get a generation out of it, and I were to get hundreds of individuals, some folks would look at that and say, that's a success. Oh yeah, I successfully bred them. But because of the stochasticity of keeping things in captivity and fluctuating conditions and a bunch of other factors, you could completely lose that colony before you ever see an F1 or F2 generation out of your F1s that you produced. And I feel like more often than not, that's the case with a lot of things. I brought this up before. Give me my $20. TJ, did you find somebody? Scroll up, unless you sent me a thing. Anyways, so I brought this up on a past stream of stuff, how there were those Rhopalomerus millipedes, and everybody was saying, oh yeah, breeding is very easy. Oh yeah, very easy. Oh, here's a picture of babies. Oh yeah, very easy. And now we fast forward 4+ years in the future, and nobody in the US has them. They were so easy, everywhere for sale, and nobody was able to get them established. And so that's the results that I look for, is when there is consistent multiple subsequent generations of things that have been produced in captivity. So that's why I'm skeptical. Is you could get, if you got wild caught adults and they dropped a litter in captivity, you could get them up to half grown or maybe less than that and look at that as a success. Get a couple dozen of them and say, oh yeah, I was successful. But then the march of time happens and all of a sudden you don't have an actual culture going because they all die out because conditions were not ideal, or you're missing this, that one little something something. So yeah, that's why I ask for evidence and a price. The evidence gives me peace of mind that I'm not going to be dumping what is on isopods like this. Could be $1,000 on something that's just going to die. So it gives me peace of mind. And then the price means that this person has produced enough of them under their conditions to feel comfortable letting some of them go, instead of feeling like, oh, I have to hold back onto all of them until, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to produce anymore. Let me scroll up and go through the chat. Some discussion on duckies and some other things. How many millipedes can you keep together? Depends on the species. A lot of millipedes will actually spider bullets will do very well at higher densities than you would expect. The only beef I have with panda kings and rubber duckies are they burrow so much. If you have enough of either of those, they will be out and about. I have so many panda kings that they're just out and about constant. If you have as any isopods, if you have a bunch of them, they'll be out and about constantly. So white duckies are much more active, in my opinion. Oh, I have to actually check on my white ducky culture. That's tomorrow, though. I can't worry about that now. Chris Snyder, I agree. If you acquire F1 and can produce F2 generations, then you probably got the husbandry right. So that's wait. He sold out of the Marilynell. See, that's the thing is. Sold out also means, and I am guilty of this with I think. Do I do this on Roach Crossing? I'm gonna go on my site and see if I'm guilty of this. No, I don't think I do this anymore. Sometimes if I didn't have things available because the culture was crashing or something like that, I would also put sold out on Roach Crossing. But I think now I just have it set to not available or contact for availability for certain things for whatever reasons. So sold out to one person can mean, oh, I literally sold out of everything that I have. To another person, it can mean, oh, my colony crashed. I'm probably never going to have them again. I'm not going to bring up any particular names, but there is a very, very large isopod seller that has been around since basically the insanity started. You can go to this very large isopod seller's website, and you will find that over 60% of the inventory has been out of stock, but not just out of stock, has been out of stock for several years. So that does not inspire confidence in me that captive cultures have been established of those species. So there are some species of Myriapoda that we can't keep past F3. I think if you've gotten an F1 and you've gotten an F2 and your F3 is failing, there's some husbandry thing that you're overlooking. Maybe they just exhaust their substrate by that point the culture has exhausted substrate, and then you've taken a successful variable out of the equation, and so a crash, which looks like, oh, they were doing so great for so long, then you remove that, and then it's like they basically starved or something like that. Or with some things, you can have different stuff build up in the substrate over time. Like with gastropods, you can have ammonia build up. So if you keep the culture in the same enclosure and you don't take precautions to manage that or the other waste material, all of a sudden you have a gigantic cataclysmic crash, and you think, oh, I guess they just don't do well in captivity long term. So, Hylas, oh, hello, Hylas. Good to see you again. Yes, it's some isopod discussion today, which is strange because I felt like I was ready to come to the table with a lot of Roach discussion. So yeah, I mean it's also completely legitimate for places that sell things to sell out. That's supply and demand type stuff. But it is perplexing and very sus to me to have multiple venues that have access to these isopods and know people who are working with them, to not have any available in the last year and a half. And I have been offering over the asking price too, in case people are very motivated by that and cannot find them available. Yeah, so don't rule out not being paranoid about certain things with cultures. Firelegs or flame leg millipedes, the what is it, Trigonulus macropygus. I can speak from good experience there. They are ridiculously easy, but they're glass cannons. They will, if they exhaust their substrate of the rotting wood material and leaf litter, if they exhaust it and they're out of food, they will just crash. They will just crash, and there's no redeeming it. You have to stay very on top of that. They're very high maintenance species. So I don't think from my past experience that it's for some reason after a certain generation they just don't do well. It is definitely a husbandry thing where it's this species is just very sensitive um to this one factor, and if you don't keep up with that, they will just crash irredeemably. I'm trying to think if there's any roaches that are like that. Oh, Latiblatella are like that, where they can do very fine if the air is dry and the colony will build numbers very well. But then if it gets too humid and it's too cold, they will just crash. You will just lose them irreparably. It's not a matter of something mysterious happening at the F2 or the F3. It's just that they're a very specialized roach, and they're not. There's an optimized window of, if you're going to keep them at a higher density than they occur at in the wild, and conditions are going to be too dry or too moist, that you have to balance for with them, in my experience. So, and I was very skeptical of some of these things. And of course, people point their finger at inbreeding a lot, and that's not even an issue with 99% of captive invertebrates. It's not even an issue with a lot of other just organisms in general. The problem with inbreeding is when you breed related individuals, the higher chances of there being deleterious homozygous recessive traits that will pop up, because you're basically line breeding, if you unintentionally line breeding if you're crossing two related individuals. So, but there are plenty of examples where inbreeding is just fine. It's just how a lot of species have propagated for very long periods of time. Like a lot of the island species, you have a situation where that entire population could have been founded by one female, and they become very successful and very specialized where they have colonized. Things like the Mauritius kestrel and things like that, where the population within the last 100 years was down to 3 individuals, and has now gone up to as high as 150 and then fluctuated back down to 50. It's just the way some species work. I think orchid mantids have a hardwired mechanism to prevent inbreeding, and my evidence for this is that sibling pairings, the ooths don't tend to be fertile. So with this hardwired inbreeding prevention thing is the fact that male orchid mantids will mature many, many, many months before females under natural conditions from the same ooth. And so, by the time that they've finished doing their thing with unrelated individuals and have died is when their female siblings would be maturing. So that could happen to me. I use wood pellets as 50% of my substrate. If I keep something long term, the wood may eventually be consumed. Kenyans are doing really well, but they don't eat too much. Leaves mostly. Maybe also the wood in the mix. Shane says, I'm pretty sure anything is culturable, but how many factors are you willing to take into account to monitor and adjust. Yeah, that's the thing. I have been touting the mantra for a couple of years that I can breed anything in a 10-gallon tank, and it's true. But how many 10-gallon tanks am I willing to set up to adjust and work around a species, life cycle and whatnot, depending on what I'm looking at. So, but yeah, sometimes it's just figuring out what that gimmick is. Tennyson asks, is there a way to induce the pupation of large Dermestes larvae? I think that Dermestes lardarius and Dermestes talpinus, large larvae, may actually need to be cooled to induce pupation. And I've tried to keep lardarius many times without any sort of diapause or anything like that. And I have gotten a stop in reproduction out of adult lardarius, halfway through the summer in early fall, and I'm unable to instigate them to lay eggs again. So I think that lardarius definitely needs to be cooled at some point in the life cycle to get them to pupate and perhaps for adults to begin laying eggs again after that. And talpinus is another eastern United States species. I'm going to look up the exact range for talpinus. Be interesting, actually, to see this on iNaturalist, what the range for Dermestes lardarius is. Larder beetle map. Oh boy, would you look at that. So Dermestes lardarius has a largely temperate distribution. In Europe, it's almost strictly temperate. And if you look at the United States, there are records of some individuals. Let me even see if these are properly identified, because they might just be different species. That's a ventral picture. How the hell could you identify that from just a ventral? Let me see if any of these southern ones are actually lardarius. These more extreme southern ones. With the window open, the spruces and the firs are letting out their pollen. All these images on iNaturalist of Dermestes lardarius from south about Tennessee are incorrectly identified. So from the pictures, Dermestes lardarius has a temperate distribution, both where it's introduced and in its native range. So my observation that they probably need to be cooled to encourage pupation and egg laying seems to be pretty spot on. I mean, if you look at the distribution map, I can't link the whole map, but I'll link the page so anybody who's on the stream can check it out. Believe yours are lardarius. Tennyson, if you have a picture, if you post it in chat, we can look at it. We do have a couple of beetle-brained folks here. Alan and TJ probably be very happy to give it an eyeball. Quart of white rotwood, says Chris Snyder. I figure it would be pretty stable. However, it's growing green mold. Is that common an issue? Bless you. Oh, yes, the green mold seems to be a more it seems to colonize wood pellet materials very quickly relative to the white rot fungi under certain conditions. And I thought that it would just permanently retain that advantage because I have a couple of containers that I set up to prep for Zorotypus colonies and some other white rot wood-feeding organisms. But then over time, over the course of about 2-3 months, the white rot makes a very strong comeback and pushes out the whatever that green material is. So the green fungus is not ideal for raising millipedes and beetles and other stuff that feeds on the wood. It's good for Zorotypus, but again, eventually the white rot will push it out over time. Chris, I would guess it's trichoderma, which mostly eats other fungus, but it can be a problem. It's very opportunistic. Yeah, it does look like the trichoderma that I've seen pop out of some roaches occasionally. So, but yeah, it will get pushed out by white rots like Pleurotus when you have the two of them together over time. The Pleurotus, just relative to that trichoderma, seems to be more K-selective, relatively. So, but yeah, anyways, Tennyson, yeah, if you look at the map for findings of uh, Dermestes lardarius, you'll notice it's largely temperate. They don't seem to range into Florida, and all the records that are from south of about Tennessee, or most of the records that are from south of about Tennessee, seem to be misidentified. And the bulk of the observations are from uh, the East Coast and the Midwest, and then it sort of trickles further out west. And then you get a couple of them sporadically up along the Rockies and up into Canada and whatnot. So yeah, it's a temperate species, so it probably needs to be cooled. I'm going to look up and see if Talponus needs to be, or Talponus is similar, because I do know that is Talponus in this subfamily or subgenus. Talponus. Is it not even on here? Here we go. I'm expecting, before I look at the map, I'm expecting Talponus to have a eastern United States distribution. Oh, wow, there's not enough data on this whatsoever. So it's in California, it's in the Carolinas. This is too sporadic, too few observations to make any sort of determination. And I remember reading maybe on Bug Guide that there's a species in California that looks a lot like Talponus, but it's different. So I think Talponus also needs to be cooled. Let me look at Bug Guide. Bug Guide shows it as having just a United States distribution without the Great Plains, basically. So, but anyways, Talponus is, I think, native, and Lardarius is introduced. So, what are the sticky notes on the cages behind you? Those are my labels for the enclosures with the Latin names and strain names of whatever's in them. Because I have so many roaches, I use the yellow sticky notes for roaches. And because I have so many isopods, I use the green sticky notes for isopods. There aren't any of those up there right now. And then for everything else, I use orange sticky notes. It makes it easier at a glance to see what container I'm looking at. How do I post a photo if I'm on my computer? Yeah, you can link the post, Tennyson. And actually, if we came to a conclusion what it is, I actually, a long time ago, I was given admin or whatever status on Bug Guide for sorting, helping with identifications, confirming IDs. So I might actually log in, maybe confirm the ID in real time. Now, was there anything else I wanted to talk about? TJ, are you still here by any chance? Because I was curious about asking you about how you're keeping the Vonones ornatus. It is actually not that yummy of food. It's since I brought it out of the bag and put it on the desk, it's actually gotten a little bit stale, but it's just sourdough bread. But I guess it is quite tasty. I had some spread for it, but I used it all up. Yes, TJ was here. He did a interview stream with Cormax yesterday, and unfortunately, I could not watch it because I was busy working away and slaving away, separating out Latiblatella red-eye nymphs from Neoblatella detersa, and that was not fun. And I don't want to ever keep those two species together ever again. So, but anyways, it's done, and I can always go back and watch it. Yeah, I'll probably pull it up later and watch it while working on some stuff either tonight or tomorrow. Tomorrow's probably gonna be a pretty hardcore day with doing the 300 plus isopod cultures and then the 200-ish roach bins and oh god. Do you have a note for our order? Carolyn, I'm not sure what you mean by a note for it. Photo is a bit blurry, but there isn't much to see with the beetle. A good dorsal picture with some taxa will get you a long way, even if it's not the most detailed. And Lardarius is very distinctive, so at least compared to all the other North American choices. What else was I going to do? Oh, I eventually, and maybe even sooner than later, could do a bug room tour. So it's something people have been requesting. And again, I'm a perfectionist, so I want everything to be perfect in the bug room before I give an active tour. So, but that may happen maybe by mid-May, and then I'll be off to Florida, and then everything will get messed up again when I come back, and I have to put things away. Bug subscription service. So where I was going with this though is the aquatics rack has really been coming along. I set up 4 shrimp tanks to cycle in the last couple of days and had to order another bag of the very special quality clay pellets for stuff from Amazon. So that's supposed to come in tomorrow. And I was actually wondering if anybody here keeps any of the freshwater shrimp because I do like them. I especially like the crystal reds. They remind me of those larger marine shrimp that are red and white, of course, much smaller, but I like that there's a pretty close 1-to-1 with the appearance. And so I think I've decided I want to work with like 5 of the sort of like mainstream aquarium shrimps. Oh, Carolyn, like to help you remember to ship our. Yes, I do have an order list that I put things onto. And again, sometimes if for whatever reason I don't write something on there, sometimes when PayPal tells me I've received money, it'll send 2 email. It'll send if 3 people send me money, sometimes it will all be in one email, and then 5 minutes later, if somebody else sends me money, it'll come as a separate email. And so sometimes when they double up really quick like that, I can miss things because that's the main way to notify it. Although I usually do go back through and check through my received. But yes, I do have a note about it. So yeah, cherry red, easy to keep until the tank runs dry, says Chris. Yeah, I had a good colony of cherry reds going as well. And then one day they just crashed. And that's one of those situations where, I would be critical of myself for, I guess they just don't do well long term. But what I think happened was I was growing a Salvia gorantiaca near the aquarium at the time, and it had one of those. You know how the pre-made aquarium lids will have a cutout area for where you would put the filter in. Well, I wasn't using a filter, and I was growing some Salvia gorantiaca to keep it indoors over the winter on the adjacent shelf, and it doesn't like being indoors over the winter, and it dropped a bunch of leaves, and they fell into the shrimp tank. And salvias are known for having some potent leaves and potent chemicals of different sorts. And so I'm wondering if those leached into the water and basically killed all the shrimp very rapidly. Or it could have been an ammonia spike or something like that. I don't really keep track of those things. And there's not a lot of algae in that tank due to the lighting. So I'm gonna go up and see what I may have missed here. Have you ever considered giving magic potions a new line? It seems like the broad community has completely embraced magic potions. Oh my lord! I worked so hard to come up with a good line name that would stick out from all the other things. Considering it was just like Dalmatians are Dalmatians. This is this, and now you've got people who are getting like simple recessives of something and calling it like cherry and weird stuff like that, and it's like, so I could change the line name, I suppose, but that's the thing is, it's become very iconic, and what will happen and has been happening is people are circling back around and realizing that the weird mixed size throwing wild type with orange spotted magic potions they received are not actually magic potions. And some people don't care, and there's no convincing those extremely casual people who just wanted something that kind of looked cool and isn't the purest thing. But for people who actually want to work with the true stock, then they come and then they pay the money because somebody else sent them the wrong thing, because we live in a society, we live in a culture. Um, so, anyways, I feel like that would be conceding the wrong kind of ground. So I'll just keep working as I have been. I have some more big projects that are become available. They'll probably become mainstays again, and people will bastardize those. And then people who actually want to get what they see online and what they fell in love with and what they got excited for instead of trash will come and pay the money for things and come and get pure stock. So, um, Robert Barraza, how do I order? First timer here. You can send me an email at roachcrossing@gmail.com with ideally your zip code and then sort of the species and quantities you're interested in. I can get you a quote. If you have any husbandry questions, among other things, just feel free to include those as well. Um, Chris Snyder, they ate all the biofilm and starved. Maybe that's what could have happened to the shrimp, but I was feeding them pretty regularly with rabbit pellets, which is why I think maybe there could have been a spike of something in the enclosure, because I don't really do water changes that often either. And there wasn't enough phytoplankton to sort of yoink those out of the water. And although there was a lot of Java moss and Java fern, but Java fern probably doesn't take as much stuff out of the water as quickly as a suspended algae or a biofilm of algae on the sides would. So, Samson says to show bug. No, Samson, I'm not going to show bugs. Why would you think that I would show bugs on the Roach Crossing live stream? In fact, I'm going to show something else just to spite you, Samson. Just to spite you. Samson has angered me. And so now I bring a little weaker. Just a little baby weaker. This is one of the ones that was born last Saturday. It's gotten very large very, very quickly. And I really like this hairstyle just all over. Is rocking them rosettes. Chris Snyder says, I ran a light on the tank 24/7. Lots of plants too. Worked fine right up until I let the tank go dry. Yeah, I think the more intense lighting is probably a big key. So what I did for my um, uh, aquarium rack downstairs this time around is I went out to Menards and I bought some very bright shop light fixtures that were actually they have a switch setting on them, so I can tone down the lighting if I need to for whatever reason for things that like less lighting. So I've had those running, I think, 14 hours. There's so much algal growth, but everything's doing so well, so I see no reason why I would switch to any other method. And I really don't mind a lot of suspended or algae on the sides except for the front, so the tanks are getting green, and I think everything will be happier that way anyways. Robert Barraza, I emailed on my desired order Monday. What should I expect? if you have emailed, I am still going through emails and have been doing husbandry and putting things away the last couple of days since I just now am back to being actually staffed. So your email should be answered within the next 2-ish days. Tomorrow I should be going through in the evening and doing a good email answering. Um, and orders that are being placed now, May the 3rd still has some open shipping slots, and if not, it would go out the following week, May the 10th. So uh, we do our stuff on April 4th. He sure showed Samson. What should we show to the bug? Um, uh, Oh yeah, the note line was a good one liner. I as I said, I do have an order sheet that I work off of now that I update as I receive things and bump things around, trying to keep myself to shipping under 25 orders a week so I don't go insane. And honestly, it's great to have somebody helping again, even though I do still have to teach them the ropes with a lot of stuff. It's nice to just have an extra pair of hands around with a lot of things. Alan, it is not food. I mean, I guess not at this stage. It's not food. He's a little friend at this stage, a little weaker, like their little chops. Very hairy bug. How do you culture those? Um, so in the starting last week, I actually keep my guinea pigs outside, and they're very cold tolerant as long as they can sort of get out of the wind. So I'll overwinter them, try to overwinter them in the garage. But during the summertime, spring, summer, and around maybe like mid-November is when I start bringing them in for the winter. And just a big old cage with a nice big water bowl, lots of hay, guinea pig pellets, and then whatever extra fruits and produce that I have that's not going for the bugs. And yeah, I really like guinea pigs and hope to one day have a gigantic guinea pig ranch. Um, to some, unfortunately, they would be used for dog food, but also I just like having lots of guinea pigs too. So it's multi-purpose farming operation thing. Hyla says, "Yeah, I get that about the magic potions. I'm currently working at genetics morph guide with the intention of spreading some awareness of that sort of thing to the casual community." Yeah, it's going to be something to piece through, and you'll get blowback from a lot of the big suppliers who just ordered stuff en masse and didn't really pay attention what they were getting or didn't care. It's just very difficult to get straight answers and on the ground information about a lot of lines and stuff like that. It didn't used to be that way. Back around 2015, I think it was Satchel who was telling me, like, yeah, back in 2015 or 2014, the only people who cared about isopods were you, Eric Maxwell, me, and Oren, basically. And then everything exploded from there. But, people don't even know that all of our Dalmatians are pure Dalmatian Porcelio scape are all descended from like 7 individuals that I was sent from Tennessee, or that what's another one that's really inbred, or that all of the pure orange Dalmatian Porcelio scaber come from one uh, orange individual that somebody found in New Jersey, and he isolated a colony of U.S. line oranges, which subsequently produced an orange Dalmatian, which he isolated. So yeah, people didn't know that. That's not just from crossing Dalmatians and oranges. It's shows entirely different line with separate genetics underneath it, or that lavas are actually a locality and not a morph. So things like that. But I just try to provide the information on the website and hope people will make good use of it. Um, uh, I only said that to inconvenience you, and then you bring out a precious bean. Yes, this is. I felt this one had a very personable look for the live stream. There's actually one more that I think I'm a little more fond of that has like a triple coloration going on without all the rosettes and stuff. Tennyson, you said how hard are their ootheca to hatch? I said ootheca that time. Oothiki. ooths to hatch. What species? Um, that that isn't a bug. I love all the people being like, "That's not a bug." Um, Shop lights work great, says Chris Snyder. And thank you everybody for being so understanding with my precious time. It has been trickier lately to get everything that I want done, both indoors and outdoors, but getting there. And the end game is hopefully this fall, assuming a lot of things align and there's a collapse in the housing market. I am looking to put my house on the market and buy the final piece of property out in a more rural area. And then the end goal there would be by June 2023 to have the big, huge 10,000 square foot Roach building and be able to have the production of some key things to be able to hire some full time staff to help me. So, um, so yeah, it's a work in progress, and so for now, I have to deal with my growing space constraints, but also being able to find people who are able to work at a price point that I can afford, while also affording my existence as well. So let's see. Scrolling down a bit, Kyle looks like a supervillain petting the guinea pig like that. Yes, this is Mr. Wuss Wuss. Oh, I just love their little lips. This is so pink. I'm surprised it hasn't been weaking at me. Usually, with the babies, they'll start they'll be like weak, just like once or twice, but very comfortable. Um, I guess the guinea pig's name could be Mr. Wuss Wuss. How are the false wedders doing, Tennyson? There have been no deaths and no hatches. So this is actually they're doing much better than the first set was, which I think by May I had lost all of my adults from the first batch of Tafaliska last year. So basically a year ago, I think maybe some weeks I had started to lose all of the adults, but these ones are still going strong. And at that point, I hadn't figured out that they would eat just fish flakes, and I think that's a huge step up is just knowing that I don't have to provide them with leafy material at all. Vocabulous. Oranges came from New Jersey? No, it's not a locality name. I do have the information on my website for the city it came from, but U.S. orange Porcelio scaber came from New Jersey, as well as orange Dalmatian Porcelio scaber. And the orange Dalmatian was the Dalmatian mutation popped up in the colony of oranges that this person had isolated from stock he found in the wild in New Jersey. So they're both actually completely unrelated to pure Spanish oranges, which is a pure Spanish line. Is that a boy or a girl? I don't know if it's a boy or a girl guinea pig. We can find out though. Oh, it's got a little peeper, so it's a boy. So it is in fact a Mr. Wuss Wuss and not a Mrs. Wuss Wuss. So it's got a little peeper. I'm also interested in those false wedders. Yeah, so they're doing well. And again, with my past experience with the few nymphs that I got to hatch, accidentally, as I think you guys may all remember the story with that, how I basically forgot about the egg cases and found a sizable nymph that had gotten onto the counter and had grown up eating some of my cuttings. We're on schedule. It just seems like the eggs probably take quite a while to hatch and that they're laid in soil. So I would think that since I'm taking much better care of them and have a better grasp on their husbandry this time around, that I should get a pretty good hatch of babies. And I will also bring up that I was very surprised that with the Tafaliska that a male matured that was missing like some legs and whatnot from when Alan caught it. I mean, it happens. And I was for sure thinking like, oh, this thing's going to get like mauled and eaten within like a couple weeks once these other ones that are healthy and not missing body parts mature. But he's still going. That male is still alive. All of them are in good shape, so they're probably less aggressive to each other than I could have anticipated. And maybe all the food helps with that. Just having a pile of fish flakes to munch on at any time. I understand all the stuff you have to do. Thank you, Carolyn. You'll take a look at the Dermestes, Kyle. Did you link it here, or did you, Tennyson? Did you link the Dermestes here, or did you upload it another way? Because I don't see I see my iNaturalist link, but I don't see any other links in the chat. Yeah, I don't see a link. If you just resend the link here, and I'll look at it now right there. If it comes through again, maybe it doesn't let people send links for some reason. But yeah, if you could send it again here, it'll be the next thing that I see. Let's see. I think it got filtered. Yeah, it may have gotten filtered, Tennyson. So if you want to send it in an email, it'll pop to the top of the inbox, and I can look at it there and then post it here, and then everybody can see it. Although it may have also just popped up on, I would say it probably popped up on the homepage of Bug Guide, but that may be moving very fast at this time of year with all the bug IDs that people are having with stuff that's popping up in the spring. So, oh, you're so cute. You're a cute little weaker. So very cute. And so very well behaved too. So, let me think if there's anything else that I've set up or that I was eager to bring up and tell folks about. Carolyn, how busy are you? Nowadays, I'm busy all times of the year, but having gotten back from Alabama and having to get feet back on the ground once Will had taken off to go do his full time big boy job, it's been a bit difficult. All right, Tennyson, it came through, so I'm going to post this link. Oh wow, that's a weird one. Oh, I think I recognize that though. It's a bit glossy, but I wonder if it's a Dermestes ater, which if you found it in with roaches, or if you brought in any roach products from, I don't have these in my collections, but they're very common at pet stores. They come in with crickets and stuff like that very frequently. But Dermestes ater, the black larder beetle, I think is a pretty good match without having any idea of other yeah, I guess that is glossier than I remember them being. It's been a hot minute since I've seen Dermestes ater. If I went up to a local pet store, I could probably get them out of the cricket bins. So, but yeah, I would think it's probably Dermestes ater. Smack says, have you noticed any behavioral or husbandry differences between the P. americana color morphs? I was steered away from doing my undergrad on blinded composting, but I'm so tempted to keep some. Yes, I have noticed that the Americana Black and Venom were a bit slower to start than other Americana that I have. So I have my strain that I found at my parents' place in a bag of cypress mulch. I found two nymphs and ended up being a male and female. And it took them like some stupidly long amount of time to reach maturity because it was just the two of them. They didn't have the elite effect or whatever. I want to say it took them a year and a half or maybe more to grow from newborns up to adults. And then once I had adults and they started reproducing, it all went downhill from there. So my main Paraplaneta americana colony is actually completely inbred from two siblings, and it's fine. And I haven't ever seen any mutations pop up in there. So, but yes, so I would say compared to my wild type ones, my inbred wild type ones, and now I also have experience with some from Key West, from mile zero, from near the mile zero marker. So I would say from my experience, yeah, they seem to take a bit longer to get some traction going in the colony for whatever reason. Oh, sorry, little weaker. I coughed and it pulsated. Only thing is that they also molt, and they don't seem to eat their own molt, so I remove their molts every week or so. Yeah, dermestids will not touch any of their exuvia, basically. Oh, good boy. Um, Alan, any updates on the pale ones I gave you? I haven't had any more adults of those mature, and actually, just today, I went through and pulled about 15 immature males and 15 immature females from the colony to grow out separately so that I could pick the palest one with the least pronotum markings to pair up of each sex and put them together. So again, no new adults have popped up, but they're getting close. Carolyn Nichols, how fast do millipedes breed? Again, it's very dependent on the species of millipede that you're working with, and the sex ratio and how many you have. It's a very chill guinea pig. It is learning not to be fearful of existence, but they usually guinea pigs will just sort of calm down after a while. I mean, he's probably very alert, and this is completely foreign to him, but he doesn't seem to be overly stressed. He's just sort of. I mean, I guess they're guinea pigs, so they're constantly alert in some one way or another. But his little face is just so cute. So was there any other projects that I wanted to bring up and talk about? Why doesn't that container have a label? Oh boy. Anything else up there? Trying to think. I have a lot of I've separated out and started a lot of Blatella germanica projects. I was down to I have an auto blog post about this Black German progress. Yeah, I just put it up today. It was an auto post, so I forgot about it. But I have all these German roach phenotypes and the black, which I'm desperately trying to salvage and get going consistently. I accidentally created a chocolatey looking Botella germanica using some outbred genetics of the original black and some that I was sent from Virginia. And thus, now we will have a rainbow of different color forms of Botella germanica in the next year, hopefully. I do have some of the pure original black strain genetics to work with now, too. So if that line proves out, I will resurrect that stock. But until then, any of the stuff I outcross with Virginia stock, I won't be able to label as black, as it's not the same thing. Carolyn, most of my hissing roaches are downstairs. There are a couple of species up here that are localities that I recently acquired, but I'm trying not to disturb them at all because I want them to get to adulthood. Because of the two rarest ones, I just have a pair, so I don't want to cause them any undue stress. Have you experienced any issues with predatory mites in your scared beetle setups? Alan's having trouble with them in his and thinks they're actively harming his larvae. Curious if you had that problem too. No, those whatever used to be Hypoaspis species don't usually pop up in my bids, and when they do, they seem to be going after those small silver springtails, but also never enough to destroy the population. I think that they have those small silvers must have some adaptation against predatory mites that allows them to coexist pretty well alongside them. So, but yeah, I think whenever I've had blooms of like those Hypoaspis, it seems it's usually if I've let the enclosure dry out a fair enough and then done a big watering, it seems to either force them out or force them to make themselves uh, their presence known. But yeah, I think I don't have any problems with them in Pacnota or Gymnetus or Euphoria or in either of these guys up here, Dichronorhina and Cinerina. But again, this is my first time getting adults out of Dichronorhina and Macinerhina, so we'll see how things go on a larger scale when they start actually reproducing. And Carolyn, I'm excited that you're excited for your bugs to come in. And sorry again about the wait. They mainly feed on fungus gnats, other mites, and springtails. Yeah, which is why I'm surprised they go after prey as large as nearly mature scarab larvae. Yeah, I don't think they go. I don't think they have a behavior to really like attack that kind of stuff. So, Tennyson says I'm going to go ahead and leave, but I will hopefully see you next week. Thank you for tuning in, Tennyson. Um, I think I may wrap up the stream soonish, but I really feel like there were more things I had to talk about. Oh my lord! Looking at the Heteracheta orientalis mesh cube, where I put a full Drosophila hydae culture in there, and they've started eclosing, and it's just getting filled up with fruit flies, and the Heteracheta are just so fat looking. So, anything else that I needed to talk about? I think he's all right. Maybe they will attack scarabs because of their soft bodies. There are other Hypoaspa species that are parasites in scarabs, but these supposedly aren't. Yeah, I mean, could have been stowaways from other species that have come from other places that may have had the predatory ones on them. I do know Alan had told me about my Dynasties Grantii from Cave Creek Canyon were laid with some sort of mite on them too, but Alan said they wouldn't cause any sort of issues because they're like in a weird semi-commensalism with them. They're just so cute. Other things to update on. Oh, I have done a pretty good check through of a lot of Aeronavega, including all the Floridensis, which I am feeling more and more confident will be able to establish colonies without me having to go and collect more wild ones. So I'm happy about that. But a lot of these guys as well, the cups from the September trip, seem to be good hatches starting, and then maybe because the air humidity is going up, or maybe because I watered them a bit much. And I am trying to be as careful as possible with providing enough food so the females don't eat the babies as they hatch out of the oots, but also not so much food that it encourages grain mites. Although I think we're getting past the worst time of year for grain mites, which is usually sometimes in the middle of the winter if I feel too cocky and water too much. So Chris Snyder, do you have anything you want to ask me about, or we're good for now? Chris, yes, I wanted to thank you for all of your in-depth emails. It can be a bit for me to process when I have other things on my brain, such as when I'm thinking of enclosure designs or trying to power through the emails for people who are just sending orders. But I do appreciate your very well thought out emails and experience with the things that we have discussed. And I feel like there was something I was going to talk to you about in particular, but I'll have to get you in an email tomorrow night. I'll send you something more. Um, and I feel like the live stream will be a good place to sort of ask some questions about some things people would like out of the site into the future as things move forward, because I do think we're starting to come due for a website, update, redesign, something or other within the next 3 years. But again, the main priorities for me right now with respect to the bug keeping are getting all the species in stock that I want and moving so I can have more bugs. So including more moth flies. Yes, very important. Braden, no more Gigas news. I have 2 bins that I've rotated the adults through that I still need to crack open and see. The last time I checked on one of them, I didn't see any babies in it. But the other bin, which is the current bin they're in, uh, needs a closer look. Now, another thing that kind of limits me from looking in there at the moment is it's also one of my bins for some very rare isopods, which do well in with the gigas. And those isopods have started producing offspring after growing up from being little niblets themselves. And so I'm very hesitant to go digging through the substrate and tearing everything up to look for gigas babies when there's baby isopods that I could be damaging, at least in that bin. So yeah, no new updates on them. I think the original bin that I've been pulling my holdbacks out of may have run dry. I do want to give it one more good look through because again, the Gigas eggs tend to take forever to hatch. I did visit a friend in Chicago who got a group of Gigas from me years ago who that matured, and she's started getting a good number of babies. I think her largest one is now like 5 or 6 inches long. And so we, when I visited her, we did a substrate refresh and moved some individuals around and stuff like that. So there's a possibility that if I don't produce any, that there will definitely be some from her. Although our setups are pretty much the same. So Carolyn, yeah, thank you for contacting me here. I appreciate that. I hope that you have a good week, and I will let you know. You'll get your notification when the order goes out. Shane says dragonflies are beautiful, and you'll never tell me otherwise. Oh, a little cup of sludge that I dug out of a tree hollow in Alabama with a stick, uh, at the Choctaw Huberti spot area. Actually, two moth flies closed from it, and one looked very similar to the Lepisiodina we already had, but the other one was definitely a new genus. And so now I've set them up in a starter cup over here, desperately hoping more adults will pop up out of the sludge. So, um, Hylas, how are you culturing your drain flies? Basically, just a 32-ounce cup with some mulch or leaf litter at the bottom. That's in about a half an inch of water. And I will put in some fish flakes or a piece of dog food and let it get very disgusting. And then add some adults of drain flies from another culture, and they will colonize it very swiftly. So currently, in terms of drain flies, we have the Psychota, CF albipunctata, the Lepisiodina conspicua, and the what's a different species? Maybe it was Psychota maculata or something. Clogmia, and then the one that I was obsessing over and very excited about for weeks was the Clogmia albipunctata, which are the largest one that we currently have available. So yeah, so that's how that's how I've been keeping the sewer fairies, and yeah, so 3 species in 3 separate genre, and I'll be very content if by the end of summer I get to 5. Who knows if it'll happen or not? But the one species is very wispy, looks more like the sand flies, the blood sucking, not so sewer fairy relatives. So I do hope that that weirder looking genus that popped up in the cup actually establishes. But again, I'm at the mercy of whatever continues to pop out of the sludge that's in there. And then eventually, I'll just move them to a larger and larger enclosure until I have enough sewer fairies, and hopefully have, again, a growing collection of sewer fairies over the next couple of months and years. So, oh, you're just so patient. That's a cute little weaker. So little chubs. He's very cute. So, anything else? No, other than, again, I look around and there's so much stuff going on in the basement, but I look around here and really the primary things that I get excited about are the Aranavega florensis finally doing very well, and uh, dreaming about putting Tampa up on the site and then switching out excuse me, switching out the Archibald for Lake Placid since they're pretty much the same locality and look the same. I just didn't want to mix them. There's enough distance between them that they've been probably isolated for some time, but it's not a huge morphological distance or difference. So, anything else? I felt like I was going to tell everybody that I really screwed up with something. Hmm. What did I screw up with? Oh, I told Alan, Corsair Tech Sense is completely screwed up. He sent me some pre-subs or sub-adults during the late winter. I put them in a small enclosure. I was giving them lots and lots of heat, and basically the colony just burned out. The nymphs weren't able to establish and find food or whatever. I just completely screwed up with that species. I think that's good to hear, TJ. Excellent to hear, actually, because I was pestering Alan for some more tech senses while the adults are coming into season. So I think I shouldn't. I think my primary mistake was I should not have given them heat. I should have. I should have definitely kept them just at the bug room temperature in here. It's more than warm enough for them. And I'm wondering if maybe I should have started them in a smaller enclosure than I put them into, perhaps, or a larger enclosure. I'm not sure which one would have shifted the balance in their favor. So, but yeah, it is funny that Parashai, which is so hard to find, it was so weird, so weird and seemingly difficult at first, has now become very easy and distributable to the point where I'm suggesting them as a feeder. And Texensis, we still can't really figure out consistent results. And yeah, I feel like if I get more Texensis from Alan, they will go into one of these bad boys and just be kept in here at the typical bug room temperature. And maybe if there were to be a couple thousand in there, I would consider bumping them straight into one of those to get a good culture going and not putting it under or not putting it directly above a heat lamp, but maybe on one of the upper racks so it's more of an ambient heat that's warming the enclosures, or maybe in one of these ones here in the mid level and seeing how that goes. But yeah, boy, if we could just one of these days make it to F3 with them, that would just be wonderful. I wish. So for now, I'll just keep pestering Alan, and we'll see if your colony produces a good number that you would eventually be consistently producing them. So I mean, I guess this is better than figuring them out. I feel like will be informative for working with Plectoptera again, perhaps. So, but anyways, again, I think that's all that I have to all the things I kind of had in the brain to say off the bat, and I'm sure other things will pop up by next week. Next week, just a heavy shipping week. Hello, some eggs. Better late than never. It's good to see you again. I'm just fancying to wrap up the stream now. Actually, this is Mr. Wuss Wuss. He is a bug, as was requested by Samson. He wanted to see a bug show bug, so I'm showing a bug, and Mr. Wuss Wuss is in fact a bug. Um, but I don't think. I'd be disappointed if they don't come to a light trap in Florida when you go out there. Yeah, they should be around Torreya area. They should be in Apalachicola, and that would make them very easy pickings to get a bunch of adults, hopefully of both sexes. So, was there anything else? I don't think so. You named him, now you have to keep him. Yeah, I do need to get my guinea pig numbers up. Actually, I by choice was down to one female of my line that I've had going for 4 years, and a new male to act as the new patriarch to the line. So I was down to a pair, and then Brandon whose parents do not allow him to keep animals at home, but he will be moving out eventually. Brandon purchased a very nice pair of agoutis with some other genetics attached, so they have also been living here. So was down from a mighty herd of 30, 40, 50 guinea pigs a couple of years ago to just like two, and only one of those was from that original stock. So got to rebuild these numbers. So especially in the future, if I want to have thousands at some point. So do you eat them? Yes, I have eaten guinea pig. Mostly, most of the guinea pigs I have produced extras of actually went to Victor, but I have eaten them. They're quite tasty, actually. They do have some the bones are a little off-putting in terms of, like, the rib cage and whatnot, but they are quite flavorful, and it's actually I would do it again. It would be nice if they were larger. I've been trying to get cuy, which are the meat guinea pigs from South America, but they're difficult to come by in the U.S. With the exception of they pop up in like Florida and some ethnic food places, but you have to be in the right place at the right time. And so whenever I'm in Florida, I'm not in random sketchy pet stores. So, but they're like double or triple the size of the pet guinea pigs that we have, and so I would like to get some of those genetics eventually. So how can you say that in front of him? It's okay. I cover his ears. There we go. He can't hear anything. There we go. All good. I'm just so dopey. There you see little cuties. So, so yes, yeah, guinea pigs, an entirely separate interest of mine and thing for the future that I will be working with. Um, So yeah, I think with that being said, we'll draw this stream to a close. Wanted Kui for a long time as well. No such critters around here. I do have contact information for a breeder who lives in Arizona. Very hit or miss getting in touch with her, and I think with the she won't ship. I have to coordinate carriers, and I think with the number of years that I've been expressing interest, she's thinking that I'm probably not actually interested. But if it's possible and arrangeable, and if she will respond this year, I could probably pick them up on the way back from this year's Arizona trip. So that's something I have to try and coordinate if I can, assuming she even has extras. So, um, a lot of people talk up rats, and rats are really nice. But I honestly, I'm more of a mice person. I feel like the mice are independent enough that you can sort of put them, you could have one or two and sort of leave them to their own devices without the stimulation that rats need. And of course, there's the space issue. I'm also not a fan of the way that rats smell. And this is, I do currently have a couple hundred mice and a couple hundred soft furs, and the smell of like three rats is like double the smell of the current number of rodents that I work with. They just have a very strong natural odor, and I'm not a big fan of that. I can recommend rabbits. I can recommend rabbits all day and night if you get a very affectionate breed or an individual that's been raised from a little baby like this with lots of handling. They're like cats, but better, basically, with respect to how affectionate they can be and how aloof they can be. At the they don't necessarily need to constantly be tended to or even frequently, but they will come up and show affection. Um, so that's my spiel on rodent pets, and I would say that for an interactive pet, again, I feel like bunnies went out in a lot of ways too, with respect to that, because they're large enough that they're very. Some of the breeds are large enough to actively cuddle. I don't think I've ever shown Miss Puff on this stream. Next week, if I remember, I'll drag Miss Puff in here, and she can get her moment in the spotlight. Because I don't know if this is also known on here, but I do also breed rabbits. I breed Flemish giants, and hopefully, if I can find a buck for her very soon, English Angoras, pedigreed English Angora rabbits in my one female, Miss Puff, is just an absolute sweetheart. So I need to probably get some pictures or bring her in here next week so she can be met. We'll bring some large, grody looking bugs, and then a pampered, pampered fluffy bunny. She just grew all of her fur back too. They have a big molt in the springtime, and so she was looking very mangy for a couple of weeks, but all of her hair is growing back. So, um, I think keeping rodents near snakes actually has the opposite effect, where they just get very acclimated to the rodent smell. Versus, they're smelling it only when they're being fed, they're going to have a much stronger response to it. Um, Yeah, I don't think you would disturb them either. I mean, a lot of organisms have means of, for those different stimuli, after a certain period of time, they become normalized to that stimulus. So with things like light, like with roaches, over time, they will become normalized to daylight stimulus, even though they have a very strong instinctive, for the species that are photophobic, they have a very strong instinctive photophobic reaction. They'll just get used to it. They'll acclimate to it. So I don't think it's a problem for snakes. And I think that lighting is probably one of the things that things are in general very sensitive to, that they can acclimate to, weird lighting schedules. I think I can't remember where I read about this. There's like bell towers and stuff like that that are rung every hour on the hour, and the bats and pigeons that use them are completely they're completely adjusted to the routine, so they're completely unfazed by it. Versus there's people who live near railroad tracks and other things or airports, and they just acclimate to the noise. And some people are more sensitive than others to it and whatnot. So, but anyways, yes, we'll finally draw the stream to a close. Say goodbye to Mr. Wuss Wuss here. I hope everybody has a wonderful, truly springy weekend, assuming your weather is going to be the same as the weather here. So, and with that being said, I'll see everybody next week, and may your cultures ever be bountiful. Say goodbye, Mr. Wuss Wuss. Little hand. There we go. Say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.